All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast. Now, it's been an interesting offseason for the Washington Wizards. Now, after 5 years, Scott Brooks is no longer the head coach of Washington, and he has been replaced by Wes Unseld Jr. All-star guard Bradley Beal has been linked to trade rumors with him being shipped to either the Los Angeles Lakers or Boston Celtics. But instead of Beal being traded, it was all-star guard Russell Westbrook who was traded to the Lakers last week. Now, as the Wizards have a new head coach to go along with a partially new look on their team, will they be able to keep Beal happy? That is the million-dollar question right now in DC. You look at Beal, he is under contract with the Wizards through this coming season with a player option for the following season. Beal just turned 28 in June, so he is definitely in the prime of his career. And it would behoove the Wizards front office to keep him happy or face the reality of having to either trade him or let him walk in free agency. Now, make no mistake about it. The combo of Westbrook and Beal, it was good enough to help the Wizards make the playoffs last season, which they did. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's about it because you had two alphas out there, two guys that needed the ball in their hands to be effective. And, for what it's worth, they were just two guys that they could put up 30 points per contest. But you know what? At the end of the day, their team was not going to win. And we saw them get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. The bottom line is this: Beal is one of the better scorers in the NBA. We saw him average more than 30 points per game in each of the last two seasons. But the bottom line is Beal needs a true point guard to get him the ball, something that Westbrook was not. Now, of course, you know that veteran point guards Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, and Mike Conley Jr. are all potential free agents this summer. Lonzo Ball is out there as well. But I think what the Wizards need to do, they need to go out there and find a seasoned guy at point guard, a guy who is going to, take the bull by the horn, so to speak, be the floor general that the Wizards need him to be, and also, distribute and get guys like Brad Beal involved. A guy like CP3 going to Washington is going to be a long shot. I figured if Chris Paul were to leave the Suns after the situation that he had this past season, it would be to the Lakers. I think with Westbrook going there, that kind of changes things. So I think Chris Paul is definitely going back to Phoenix. Kyle Lowry and Mike Conley Jr., maybe. I mean, you look at a veteran guard like Kyle Lowry, he's from Philly. I mean, DC is not that far from the Philadelphia area, but nonetheless, I mean, Kyle Lowry already has an NBA championship on his resume. Would he want to go there and try to get something done with Brad Beal, or would he want to go look at a more championship-ready situation for the upcoming season? We'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, veteran point guard Mike Conley Jr. as well. The bottom line is the Wizards need themselves a floor general, somebody who is definitely going to take this team and mold it. You look at it right now, the Wizards did pick up some pieces when they traded Westbrook to the Lakers last week. They picked up Kyle Kuzma, and they also picked up Montrezl Harrell. And I think both of these guys can be impact players for the Wizards if they're motivated and if Wes Unseld Jr.'s system allows all of the talents from everybody involved in this trade, as well as Beal, to blend together. We also look at the development of Rui Hachimura, and this is going to be important as well. So I look at it like this. One of the questions you have to ask yourself is, do the Wizards have enough right now to become contenders in the Eastern Conference? And if so, will they be able to make Beal believe? That is the biggest thing. Of course, there's always going to be talks about star players potentially being dissatisfied with the way that things are going with their respective team and possibly looking to be traded. Also, right now, maybe something that the Wizards can factor in and run with, and that's the Giannis factor. And I'm talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo just due to the fact that he was drafted by Milwaukee, and the Bucks put it together piece by piece around him in order to get a championship team. Obviously, Giannis and Brad Beal are not playing the same position. I totally get it. But nonetheless, Beal is the Wizard star player. And will they be able to show him and say, hey, listen, we're putting and we're going to continue to put the proper players around you necessary to win a championship. So that's going to be imperative for this Wizards front office, which is led by General Manager Tommy Shepard, to go out there and do. You look at the outlook for the Eastern Conference, and I break it down into four different tiers. You look at Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Brooklyn. They're definitely in tier one. These are the teams that right now are the creme de la creme of the conference, and they're looking to get back to that championship level, especially if you're Milwaukee, as you want to try to go out there and repeat. And of course, Brooklyn and Philly want to overtake them. That second tier has Atlanta, Miami, and Boston. I put them in that tier because these are teams that can win at least one playoff series and make somewhat of a run in the Eastern Conference, but they're not quite ready to get to that NBA championship level. Then you look at tier number three, and this is where the Wizards are. I put them in that tier along with the Knicks, Chicago, Indiana, Charlotte, and Toronto. Teams that have the pieces in place to get to that play-in tournament, but not really do that much more after that. And I know that the Knicks overachieved this past season, but at the end of the day, this is the tier that they're in. And then that final tier, the bottom feeders of the conference, if you would have it, Cleveland, Orlando, and Detroit, teams that are trying to figure it out and looking to compete for the upcoming season. So for the Wizards, they have to find a way to take that next step as an organization, not just Bradley Beal, as an organization to become a championship contender. You look at the Wizards organization, they have not gotten past the second round of the playoffs since 1979. That was also the last year that they went to the NBA Finals, which was on the heels of them winning their first and only NBA championship in 1978. So it's a situation where it's a culture change, and the culture change that needs to take place with the Wizards is much bigger than All-Star guard Bradley Beal. Don't get me wrong, Bradley Beal is a phenomenal player, one of the better scorers of this era, and you don't average more than 30 points per game for the following two NBA seasons by accident. But I think with that said, I think coming up, Beal needs to find a way to take his game to the next level. And I say that from the standpoint that, you know what, he needs to find a way to help make the players around him better, elevate his game, and then help them elevate their respective games as well. It's going to be interesting to see if Wes Unseld can get the best and most out of Brad Beal and the most out of this Washington Wizards team. But I think, again, it comes down to this front office. They have to be hard at work, and they cannot sit back, and they cannot be just content with, just being to say, hey, we made the playoffs. Hey, we have an all-star caliber player. Brad Beal doesn't want that. Brad Beal is a three-time NBA all-star. And, once you go to those all-star festivities, once you're, playing around Olympic players, it's a situation where, you know what, you're rubbing elbows with these guys. You know that some of these guys have championships, and, you're going out there and, you're doing all of the individual, or you're getting rather all of the individual accolades, but you want that championship accolade as well, because at the end of the day, it's a lot of bragging rights on the table for a lot of these guys. And, 20 years from now, when their respective careers are over, you want to be able to go out there and say that you were a part of a championship team and you did it in your prime. You weren't like holding on as a veteran who had one foot out of the league at the end of the career trying to say, you know what, I got a championship ring. No. So I think this is important, and it's imperative for everybody involved to really roll up their sleeves and try to make this thing work. Of course, right now, there were the rumors about Brad Beal going to the Lakers. That's out of the window right now, as far as I'm concerned, with Russell Westbrook going there, especially from the standpoint, again, the Lakers have a lot of cap issues. So with that said, for them to keep filling out their respective roster, guys are going to have to take pay cuts. The Wizards do have some financial flexibility now, now that they were able to walk away from the Russell Westbrook contract. And I think it's going to be important for them to make the most of that financial flexibility as they look to continue to put a team around Bradley Beal. So again, the onus is going to be on Tommy Shepard. It's going to be interesting to see if Brad Beal is going to buy in to what Wes Unseld Jr. is selling. But again, it's all about the culture change in this organization. I cannot emphasize it enough. It's been more than 40 years since the Washington Wizards, of course, then Washington Bullets, were able to get past the second round of the NBA playoffs. What are they going to do to change that culture and take their organization to the next level? This is a very, very important summer for the Washington Wizards. And if they don't figure things out, and if it's another scenario where you have the Wizards competing just to get into the play-in tournament next season, you're going to have a very unhappy camper in Brad Beal. He has that option to opt out following next season. And I would not be surprised if he exercised it and took his talents someplace else. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.